I'll lay the result out for you first. It ended with my father, a man who lectured me about handouts for a decade, standing in front of our entire extended family, his hands shaking, reading a confession letter. A letter my grandfather's lawyer wrote. He had to read every single word. I stole from my daughter Kayla Whitmore. I took funds meant for her future. I have wronged her. I sat at the head of the table, next to my grandfather. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just watched his face crumble. Not from remorse. You need to understand this. It was not remorse. It was humiliation. And for people like him, humiliation is the only language they understand. This whole thing didn't just end a family dispute. It detonated a bomb in the middle of our lives. It exposed the rot that had been hiding under the polished veneer of family for my entire life. And it cost me everything to get to that point. It tore me apart. Then it rebuilt me into something else, something harder. The explosion. The moment the fuse finally hit the dynamite, it happened at a Sunday brunch. One of those awful, mandatory family gatherings. The kind where everyone smiles and hates each other in silence. I was 26. I was wearing my best coat, which was a 3-year-old beige thing from a discount rack. I remember my mom looking at it. Her lips pursed. She didn't say, "That is cheap." She just said, "Oh, you're still wearing that," which was worse. I sat at the end of the table as usual, squeezed between my sister who was texting and a melting ice bucket. I was nursing a mimosa, trying to make it last, because the faster I drank, the more I'd have to talk, and I had nothing to say to these people. I was just trying to survive the hour, to eat the free food, to go back to my real life, the one they knew nothing about. Then Grandpa, beaming, he raises his glass. The sunlight hits the crystal. It is all very perfect, very staged. "A toast," he says, "to my granddaughter, Kayla. I'm just so proud of you, and so glad you're enjoying the new apartment I got you." The air didn't just get quiet, it evaporated. All the sound in the room just vanished. I froze. My glass was halfway to my lips. The orange juice and champagne suddenly tasted like acid, like battery acid. It was burning a hole straight down my throat. I could feel my heart, not in my chest, but behind my eyes. A heavy, sick thud, thud, thud. I saw it all in slow motion. My sister's head snapped up from her phone, her mouth open. My aunt's smile froze, her hand still in the air. My mom's painted lips parted, a tiny, confused O shape. And my dad, he dropped his fork. It hit the porcelain plate. It wasn't a loud noise, but in that dead, crushing silence, it sounded like a gunshot, a sharp, final clink. Every single eye swiveled to me. I was the specimen. Grandpa stood up. Before anyone could order a drink, before anyone could pretend this was a normal, "Happy Sunday. I'm going to keep this short," he said. His voice was sharp, loud. The entire room quieted. Even other tables. I've invited everyone here, pinned to the board, because last week, I learned that a grave injustice was done in my name. 4 years ago, I sent a substantial amount of money, my own savings, to help Kayla start her adult life. He turned, just slightly, toward me. I could feel the heat rising in my face. I was told she received it. I was told she was thriving. He paused. That was a lie. The room was dead still. A server, mid-pour, froze. I looked up. I felt the familiar burn behind my eyes. My palms were instantly wet. But I held it in. This wasn't about my tears. Not anymore. Grandpa continued. "Daniel, my son, took that money. He invested it. He hid it. And then, I remember wiping them. He let his daughter suffer. In silence. In poverty. He made her feel unworthy, lazy, and dependent, all while pretending he was being a responsible parent." A wave of murmurs. A sea of shocked faces. My aunt gasped, very slowly, put her hand to her mouth. My cousin, who always ignored me, blinked hard, clearly piecing things together. All the years I couldn't afford to go out. All the times I was being antisocial. My dad just stared at his empty plate. Grandpa turned, fully, on the thick linen napkin in my lap, toward him. "You betrayed both of us. You betrayed this family's trust. And from this moment forward, you will not touch another cent of my estate. Every asset, every trust, every future transaction. It is all being restructured. You have lost that privilege." The napkin was embossed with the restaurant's crest. Then, slowly, Grandpa pulled a folded document from his jacket pocket, the letter. He laid it gently on the table, in front of my father. "I want you to read this," he said. His voice was quiet, out loud. Dad looked at the paper. It felt rough, like it was a snake, like it was poison. Now Grandpa's voice sharpened. My father's hands shook as he unfolded the letter. And when he began to read, his voice broke. It cracked with every single sentence. "Expensive. To my family." He had to stop, clear his throat. "To my family. I stole from my daughter, Kayla Whitmore. I took funds meant for her future, and I lied about their purpose." He was choking on the words. I put the mimosa down, but he kept reading. Grandpa's eyes were locked on him. "I have wronged her, my father, and the integrity of this family. I accept full responsibility, and I will pay back the full amount within 6 months. I am deeply sorry." Very carefully. When he finished, there was only silence. No one clapped. No one gasped. No one spoke. Just a heavy, collective, stunned silence. And for the first time in my entire life, I looked at my father. I didn't want my hand to shake, and I didn't feel small. I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel worthless. I just felt seen. That night, back at Grandpa's house, I was staying in the guest room, a room with clean sheets and quiet. I stood on the porch with him. I looked at my grandfather, under the stars. "I still can't believe you never asked for anything," he said quietly. "In all that time, I was done asking," I replied. My voice was soft. "When every ask is met with a lecture about how lazy you are, you stop asking." He nodded, stared out at the dark yard. His smile was still there. "I'm sorry, Kayla. I'm sorry I didn't check sooner. I was lazy." "I'm not," I said after a beat. He looked at me, confused. "I'm not sorry it happened," I said, "because now I know. I know who is really in my corner. But it was starting to falter, and I know who I am without them." He smiled, faintly. "You're not going back to that basement." "I know. I found a place for you," I said, "today, while you were packing downtown." He didn't understand the silence. Light, wood floors, real windows. Lots of them. I laughed. "A real one." It felt strange. "That already sounds like a mansion." "Grandpa, you deserve it." Maybe I did. He was the only one who didn't. But more than anything, I deserved to stop fighting for scraps. I deserved to stop living in the shadow of someone else's lie. The new apartment had floor-to-ceiling windows. The first morning I woke up there, the sun streamed in. It was so bright. It was almost violent. I had to squint. I wasn't used to the sun. "I live in a basement," I whispered. I sat on the edge of my new bed. A real bed, not a second-hand futon. And I just stared out at the city skyline. I wasn't used to seeing the sky like this, from this high up. I didn't hear my landlady cursing at her dog through the wall. I didn't hear the pipes groaning. I didn't hear the boiler click. My voice was hoarse. Click, click, just silence, peace. That day, I started something I had buried for 4 years. I opened my laptop. I dusted off the digital folder. I swallowed, the one I used to keep hidden, behind job applications, and bills, and budgets. The folder was labeled Designs. Inside were the sketches, the layouts, the ideas, the career I once dreamed of. Before the world, the acid was still in my throat. Before my father convinced me that stability mattered more than passion. Before he looked at my portfolio and said, "It is cute, but when are you going to get a serious job?" Now I got serious. I used the money Grandpa had advanced me, not just to survive, but to start. I applied to design studios. I built a portfolio website. I started freelancing. Weeks passed, then months. I got a call, a local architecture firm. They had seen my submissions. They were launching a new community housing project. They needed someone who could think creatively, someone who understood how to make the most out of small, difficult spaces. Grandpa asked. I smiled into the phone. "I've lived that," I told them. When I walked into their downtown office, I wore that same old beige coat, the one my mom called cheap. The creative director offered me a seat. By the end of the meeting, I had a contract in my hand. It wasn't just a job. It was proof. He leaned forward. Proof that I was never the failure. I was never the problem. I was never lazy or ungrateful. I was just a person. surviving an impossible situation. That living in a basement didn't mean I belonged beneath anyone. Months later, it was my turn to host brunch. Not in a restaurant. Not in someone else's house. Blinking. Mine. Real plates. Real food. I made it myself. Real sunlight streaming through my giant windows. Grandpa brought flowers. He set them in the vase I bought myself with my first paycheck. My cousin, the one who used to roll her eyes at my art. I said it louder this time. She came. She leaned in, and she asked me about color palettes and mood boards. My father wasn't there. He hadn't been back since the day of the letter. He repaid the money. Every cent. On time. The payments were cold. My voice was flat. Digital. Impersonal. The apologies stayed on paper. That was fine with me, because some people's absence is the greatest piece of all. And as I passed around a tray of scones, I caught Grandpa watching me, a soft, real smile on his face. Empty. This, he said. His voice was thick. This is what I imagined. I touched his hand. Me too. Grandpa, I wasn't about to cry. Not here. Not after all these years of practicing not crying. I never got any apartment. Grandpa, a storm cloud didn't just drop. It slammed down. I felt the pressure change in the room. This was the moment. The end of the performance. My mom's hand. I watched it. It was trembling. Just slightly. As she reached for her coffee cup, she spilled a single drop on the white tablecloth. My sister stopped chewing. Dad coughed. A dry, hacking sound. He reached for his water glass like he was choking. What are you talking about? Grandpa's voice was sharp now. The warm, fuzzy old man was gone. Kayla, I wired the down payment to your dad 4 years ago. When you graduated, $70,000. He told me he surprised you with it. He said you loved the places. My mouth went dry, bone dry. A shiver, a real, physical shiver, ran up my spine, but I forced myself to breathe. Out. I turned my head, slowly, to look at my father. His face. I will never forget his face. It wasn't just pale. It was gray, ashen, the color of concrete. He looked like he'd been sucker punched. He was staring at his plate, at the fork he had dropped. He wouldn't look at me. He wouldn't look at anyone. My mom turned to him. Her movement was slow, robotic. Daniel, she whispered. Her voice was tight, brittle, like thin ice. You said you helped her find a cute place downtown. You said she was just being humble about it. Dad, I said it. Just that one word. It hung in the air. He shifted in his seat. He looked trapped. He finally looked up. Not at me, not at Grandpa, but at some point on the wall just over my shoulder. I meant to. He stammered. No, my voice cut through his. It was sharp, cold. I didn't recognize it. You didn't mean to. You meant to keep it. A gasp. It came from my aunt. My sister's eyes were wide. She was finally paying attention. Grandpa sat back, hard. His chair scraped against the floor. His lips were pressed together, a thin white line. His knuckles were white, gripping the edge of the heavy wood table. He looked like he was going to be sick. I sat up straighter. I felt a strange calm settle over me, the calm of absolute zero. You told me to work harder, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. You told me to stop expecting handouts. You told me I was lazy. You said I needed to build character. I looked around the table, at all of them, all that time, all those years. You let me scrub other people's floors. You let me live in a room with no windows. While you pocketed the money that was meant to give me a start, you didn't just steal it. You lied. You lied about me. The air was venomous, thick, hot. It crackled with everything they had never said. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice wasn't. I wasn't going to say anything today. I never say anything. But since we're all here, maybe it is time we stop pretending. And I turned. And I walked out. I didn't run. I walked. I heard chairs screeching back. I heard my mom say, Kayla, wait, don't make a scene. I heard my dad say, let her go. She is just being dramatic. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. The hallway outside the private dining room was quiet, cool. The rage boiling inside me was a physical thing. It was a hot liquid in my stomach. I could feel every pair of eyes on my back. The shock, the guilt, The sudden, desperate discomfort. They finally deserved it. I didn't cry. Not this time. Here is the first lesson. The one I want you to burn into your brain. Families like mine, they don't run on love. They run on secrets. They run on a very fragile, unspoken agreement. An agreement to pretend everyone has a role. My dad was the successful son. My mom was the perfect, supportive wife. My sister was the pretty, uncomplicated one. And I was the problem. I was the difficult one, the ungrateful one. The failure. This is a classic dynamic. It is called the family scapegoat, or the designated patient. The family system is sick, but instead of admitting it, they pick one person to carry all the sickness, to be the problem. That way, everyone else gets to feel healthy. Everyone else gets to feel normal. My dad wasn't a thief and a narcissist. I was just lazy and entitled. See how that works? It is a neat little trick. My mistake, the one I made for 26 years, was believing them. I actually believed I was the failure. I believed I deserved the basement. When you are told your entire life that you are worthless, by the people who are supposed to love you, you don't question them. You question yourself. You work harder. You try to earn the love they're withholding. You scrub floors. You work 2 jobs. You eat instant noodles and you tell yourself it is building character. It is not building character. It is abuse. It is systematic, psychological demolition. And here is the trap. The second you speak the truth, the second you stop playing your part, like I did at that brunch, you are not seen as a whistleblower. You are seen as the one who created the problem. I wasn't the victim. I was the one who made a scene. I was the one who ruined brunch. They will immediately, instantly, turn on you because you threatened the system. You exposed the lie, and the lie is all they have. I reached the parking lot. The bright sun made me wince. I was fumbling for my keys. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't get the key in the lock of my 20-year-old car. Kayla, wait. It was Grandpa. He was out of breath. He looked older, so much older than he had 20 minutes ago. His face was pale. The jovial, beaming mask was gone, replaced by something I had never seen from him. Pure, unfiltered sorrow and confusion. You seriously never got the apartment? He asked. It was a stupid question, but I knew he had to ask it. He had to hear it one more time, without the audience. I shook my head. No, never. Where do you live? I told you. A basement. What kind of basement? The kind you're imagining. But worse. I took a breath. The rage was settling, turning into something cold and heavy. I rent a room. In a basement. From a woman who smokes so much her walls are yellow. There is a boiler. A huge one. Right next to my bed. It clicks on all night. I haven't slept through the night in 4 years. My rent is paid in cash. Because she doesn't believe in banks. I've eaten dinner sitting on the floor. On a concrete floor. More nights than I can count. He just stared at me. He swallowed. Your father, Daniel, he said you didn't want help. He said you were being independent. He lied. He said you were ungrateful. That you moved into your dream place and you didn't even thank him. A laugh escaped me. It was a bitter, ugly sound. I didn't know there was anything to thank him for. I finally got the key in the lock. He rubbed a hand over his face. His skin looked like paper. I trusted him. He is my son. I trusted him. I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? You shouldn't have. You were a fool. I just looked at him. And in that moment, I didn't just see my father as a thief. I saw my grandfather as an enabler, a lazy one. He threw money at a problem. And he never once, not tonance in 4 years, bothered to check. He never called me directly and said, "Hey, how is the new place? Send me a picture." He just sat back, believed the lie because it was easier. It was comfortable. This is the next lesson. And it is a hard one, especially for people who trust their family. Blind trust is not a virtue. It is negligence. When money is involved, trust is just a word for, I can't be bothered to verify. My grandpa's trust wasn't noble. It was lazy. It allowed my father's abuse to continue for 4 solid years. If you are ever in a position to give a gift like that, a life-changing gift, you don't hand it to a middleman. You don't send it to the father as a surprise. You put it directly into the hands of the person it is meant for. You get the paperwork. You make the call. You follow through. His failure to do that cost me 4 years of my life. Then he said something that surprised me. I want to fix this. I folded my arms. How? You can't give me back 4 years. No. I can't, but I can find out what happened. He looked at me. His eyes were sharp again. I want to see where you live. My head snapped up. Why? Because if it is as bad as you say, and I believe it is, then he didn't just lie to you. He stole from me. He stole from both of us, and I'm done letting anyone lie to me. Get in your car. I'll follow you. That night, I drove my grandfather to my home, my prison. I've never been more humiliated, and at the same time, more vindicated. He didn't say a word as I led him down the crumbling concrete side steps, the ones that were always slick with either moss or ice. The overhead bulb, the bare bulb, flickered as I unlocked the 3 deadbolts on the flimsy door. The smell hit us first. It always did. It was a thick, wet smell. Old cigarettes, mildew, damp earth, and the faint, lingering smell of my landlady's boiled cabbage from upstairs. It was the smell of poverty, the smell of being stuck. I stepped aside. Welcome to my palaces. He stepped inside. He is a tall man. He had to duck to get through the doorway. He stood in the middle of the small room and just looked. I watched him. I watched his eyes trace the stained ceiling tiles, where the upstairs bathtub had leaked. I watched him look at the second-hand couch, the one with the springs poking through, the one I found on the curb. I watched him look at the leaning bookcase, made of cinder blocks and cheap planks of wood. I watched him look at the tiny, single bed, my bed, pushed up against the groaning, rumbling laundry machine, and the boiler, the massive, oily boiler. His face didn't change. Not for a long time. He just stood there, breathing in the toxic air. Then he slowly walked over. He sat on the edge of my bed, the bed I had cried in, the bed I had woken up in, feeling like a failure every day. For 4 years, he put his head in his hands for a moment, and then he let out the saddest, most defeated exhale I had ever heard. This, he whispered, this is what you've been living in. Since college ended, I said. My voice was flat. I was done with emotion. This was an evidence presentation. His eyes got glassy. He looked up at me. He told me. He said he was saving the rest of the money for your wedding. I thought it made sense at the time. A wedding fund. There is no rest, I said. There is no wedding fund. There is no apartment. You gave him $70,000. That money disappeared the moment it hit his account, didn't it? It wasn't a question. We both knew the answer. Grandpa looked at the damp concrete floor, then back at me. Not anymore, he said. His voice was different. The sadness was gone. It was replaced by something else. Something cold and hard, like steel. He stood up. Tomorrow, we're going to the bank. And then we're going to the lawyer. He looked around the room one more time, his eyes burning. And after that, I think your dad and I need to have a very long, very specific conversation. I didn't smile, but inside, something stirred. A tiny, tiny shift. Like I had finally cracked the thick, soundproof glass everyone else had been watching me through. I wasn't the crazy one. I wasn't the failure. I was the one telling the truth. The next morning was a Sunday. I woke up to the smell of burnt coffee, my landlady's, and the sound of my grandfather's voice in the tiny hallway. He was on the phone. I don't care if it is Sunday. Howard, he was saying. Howard was his lawyer. Find the paperwork. I want every transfer traced, every cent. And I want you to draft a letter stating I no longer authorize Daniel Whitmore to act on my behalf in any financial capacity, personal, professional, or otherwise. Is that clear? His voice, it was that cold steel again, a tone I had never, ever heard him use. Not when Dad wrecked his new truck in high school. Not when Mom forgot his heart medication once. This was different. This was not family disappointment. This was business. This was betrayal. I stayed in the hallway, barefoot on the cold, gritty floor, just listening. And something inside me, something that had been frozen for years, something long dormant, felt seen. It felt validated. By noon, we were sitting in a crisp, wood-paneled office downtown. It smelled like lemon polish and old. Old money. The contrast to my basement was so violent. It made me dizzy. Grandpa had pulled strings. He had gotten his private banker and his lawyer to meet him on a Sunday. The banker was a prim woman, Mrs. Davis. She had glasses on a little gold chain. She clicked through records on her screen, her lips pressed tightly together. I just sat there, my hands folded in my lap, feeling like a child. "I do see the transfer here," she said finally. Her voice was neutral. "From Mr. Whitmore's primary savings account to Daniel Whitmore, your son." She turned the monitor toward us, marked as gift for Kayla's condo. The date was there. The exact amount, $70,000. Everything Grandpa said was true. My heart was pounding. Then she clicked again. "And this," she said. Her voice faltered for just a second. "This shows another transfer. 5 days later, from Daniel Whitmore's checking account." My heart didn't drop. It just stopped. "He moved the entire amount," she said, "into a separate investment account, under his name only. No mention of me. No note. No entrust for Kayla. Nothing. Just gone." My hands curled into fists in my lap. My nails dug into my palms. I stared at the screen, at the 2 lines of text that defined the last 4 years of my life. The digital proof of the lie. Grandpa stared at the screen for a full minute, in total silence. Then he asked, in a perfectly calm, measured voice, "Can I get a printed copy of all of that, please, Mrs. Davis?" "Yes, sir. Of course." When she stepped away to the printer, he turned to me. His face was like granite. "He betrayed you, and he lied to me. This isn't just family drama, Kayla, it is theft." I nodded slowly. I couldn't speak. "Don't worry," he added. His voice was softer. "I'll handle it." I shook my head. The words finally came. "No," I said quietly. "We'll handle it." His eyes met mine, and he nodded. "Yes, we will." This is the part of the story I need you to pay close attention to. This is the warning. If you are in a situation where a family member says, "I'm holding this money for you," or "I'm investing this for you to keep it safe," or "just trust me," it is better if it is in my name. You demand access. You demand a quarterly statement. You demand online, read-only access to the account. You demand that your name be on it in trust for. If they refuse, if they say, "You don't trust me," if they say, "It is complicated," if they say, "Don't worry your pretty little head about it," that is not a red flag. That is a screaming, blaring, 5-alarm fire. There is no legitimate reason for someone to keep your money a secret from you. Protecting you is what thieves say. Keeping it simple is what con artists say. It is for your own good, is what gaslighters say. Money is not emotional. It is just numbers. It is data. People lie. Family members lie. Paper trails do not. Bank statements do not. Get the paperwork. Get the proof. Do not trust. Verify. My father relied on my politeness. He relied on my fear of confrontation. He relied on the family rule of, "We don't talk about money," and he used that polite silence to steal from me. Do not be polite. Be difficult. Be a problem. Ask the awkward questions. Demand the answers. A simple printout, a simple bank record. That is the only thing that separates truth from a lie. That afternoon, we drove straight to my parents' house. The house I grew up in. The house I hadn't stepped foot in for over a year. Because I couldn't stand the polite, suffocating judgment. The same immaculate lawn. The same polished front door. The same family photos in the hall. Photos of us all smiling. At Disney. At Christmas. All of it a lie. Grandpa rang the doorbell. His thumb held down on the button. Dad opened it. He was in his weekend clothes, khakis, and a polo shirt. He looked half confused, half annoyed. Then he saw both of us, standing there, Grandpa holding a thick manila folder, and his eyes widened just for a second. The flicker of panic. "We need to talk," Grandpa said. His voice was firm. "Dad, I'm kind of busy. I was about to watch the game." "Sit down." "Daniel." Grandpa didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The steel was back. He walked right past my father, into the living room. The formal living room. The one with the white carpet that no one was allowed to walk on. Mom hovered in the background, wiping her hands on an apron. "What is going on? Is everything all right?" Her voice was high, nervous. My sister peeked down the staircase, her face a mask of curiosity, sensing the tension like a vulture. We all gathered. Grandpa stood in the center of the room. I stood by the door, ready to leave. Dad and Mom sat on the sofa, too close together. Grandpa placed the thick folder on the coffee table with a soft, heavy tattoo. Dad didn't even look at it. He was trying to project casual annoyance. So, what is this all about? You're ruining our Sunday. Grandpa dropped the hammer. You told me Kayla was living in that apartment I bought her, but the money never made it there. I saw the bank records today. You took it, you stole it, and you lied to your daughter. And you lied to me. Dad chuckled. A nervous, high-pitched sound. Come on, Dad, you're blowing this way out of proportion. It is an investment. I was holding it for her future. She is not responsible with money. She has been living in a basement, Grandpa snapped. His voice was loud now, eating on the floor, working 2 jobs, while you used her money, her future, to pad your own investments. I was holding it for her, Dad yelled, jumping up. His face was red, the classic narcissist's rage. When cornered, attack. It is my right as her father to. Don't. My voice cut in, sharp. It shut him up. He turned to me. You did this. You're ungrateful. After everything Don't lie again, I said. I was so tired. You didn't hold it for me. You told me I was lazy. You told me I was entitled. You told me I didn't deserve help. You told me to go flip burgers. Meanwhile, you were living off the money that was meant to give me a chance. Just stop lying. Dad's jaw clenched. He looked from me to Grandpa. He saw the folder. He saw Grandpa's face. He knew he was caught. The rage deflated, leaving the gray, ashen man from the restaurant. Grandpa opened the folder. He slid the bank statements across the table. I've already spoken to Howard, my lawyer. We will pursue legal action. If we have to. Mom gasped. Legal action. He is your son. He is a thief, Grandpa said, not looking at her. But we will give you one chance. You are going to pay back every single cent, with interest. And you are going to explain yourself, in front of the entire family, at the next brunch. No more secrets. No more hiding. No more pretending you're some noble father. Everyone is going to know exactly what you did, Mom whispered. Daniel, tell me this isn't true. He said nothing. He just stared at the papers. His hands were shaking. Then Grandpa turned to me. You'll move in with me. Next week. I've already called a realtor. We'll find you a proper place to live. I stared at my dad. One last time. He couldn't meet my eyes. He just stared at the white carpet. The man who once told me, "You'll never make it without me." He looked small, pathetic, shrinking under the weight of the truth. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt empty and free. That was better than victory. Here's the most critical lesson of all, the one you must not forget. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. You cannot win an argument with a narcissist. You cannot use logic on someone who is allergic to the truth. My father's playbook was simple. It is the narcissist's prayer. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, it is not a big deal. And if it is not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. My dad was on, it wasn't that bad, and I was holding it for you, which is, you deserved it. The only way to win is not to play. You cannot fix them. You cannot change them. You cannot make them see the error of their ways. They do not have errors. They have tactics. The funnily antidote to this kind of covert, psychological abuse is exposure. My grandfather's solution was brutal, but it was the fundy only sign thing that would work. A private apology from my father would have been another lie. A quiet repayment plan would have been a secret he could twist. He needed to be held accountable, publicly. The one thing a narcissist cannot stand is public shame. They live and die by their image, their public mask. My grandfather didn't just demand the money back. He demanded that my father's mask be ripped off, in front of everyone. If you are dealing with someone like this, do not accept a private, tearful, "I'm sorry." It is a manipulation. Demand accountability. Demand changed behavior. And if they won't, you expose them. You tell the family. You tell your friends. You show the receipts. You bring the bank statements. Do not protect your abuser. Their comfort is not more important than your sanity. Their reputation is not more important than your truth. The following Sunday, brunch. Same restaurant. Same table. Same faces. But everything had changed. I wasn't seated at the end, squeezed by the ice bucket. I sat beside Grandpa, at the head of the table. His hand rested lightly on mine as we waited. When my dad walked in, he looked like he'd aged 10 years in 1 week. The fake charm was gone. The easy smile, wiped clean. Mom stayed close to him, her face tight, lips white. My sister wore sunglasses. Indoors, like she didn't want to see what was about to happen.